What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode. And y'all have been asking me about this for almost a year. Cameron, when you gonna bring Katy onto the show? And I'm trying to tell y'all, like, I have literally, this is my thing. This is why I didn't ask you earlier. I just need you to know this. I needed to get myself together before I can bring you onto the show. Because this is the thing, I'm just starting off on the channel. I'm doing all this other stuff. I'm like, but I ain't got no clout yet. I'm not nobody yet. I don't even got barely getting on Twitter. In order to get to Katy, I need to make sure I have my game together. So look, I am so excited for this conversation because you are absolutely not only one of the fan favorites, but you are one of my personal favorites to watch. So thank you so much for hanging out with us on the show today.
Hey, thank you. That's so kind. I love Nuggets Nation with all of my heart. I love following you on Twitter, Cameron. It's such a great follow in your channel. You do such great work. So thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to chat and catch up and talk Nuggets and life and all good things. I'm just so happy to be here.
No, absolutely. So before we get started, I just want to say I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're healthy, glad you're feeling better. I know that you were down with a little bit about a COVID, but we are just glad that you're back on set and doing everything that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a rough couple days, and unfortunately, I ended up getting it right over Christmas. And so my holiday was a little bit sad, I guess is the best way to put it. I pretty much went from my bed to my couch to my bed to my couch, and I had a whole bunch of symptoms. I wasn't one of those people that was asymptomatic. So it took me a while to get back on my feet, but everybody has been so kind and so supportive and so understanding. And I'm so grateful for my Nuggets Nation family on Twitter that has reached out and wished me well, but also like my family in Minnesota, and they ended up like shipping the presents here, and we're going to have a virtual Christmas later on. So we make it work. It's the world that we live in today. And I'm just thankful that, you know, I have been vaccinated. I did get the booster. And so I can't imagine, in all honesty, what it would have been like without it, given how severe some of my symptoms were. So I'm grateful to be healthy. And I feel like on the other side of it now too, I'm like, I feel so good to be able to like work out again and be able to not even think about, you know, what my day is going to look like because I'm so tired, or it gives you a new perspective and a new gratitude on like everyday normal living and being healthy.
By the way, again, we're glad you're healthy. Katy Winge, I love your name, by the way. Like, it's just something about it. It like just speaks basketball and like basketball knowledge. So your name is perfect for the industry you're in, by the way.
Thanks. I love it. I've had so many nicknames through the years. And I feel like I've never, as a hooper, like I've never been called Katy. It's very strange for me to be called Katy. In high school, I was Winge. Like everybody called me Winge, even though my last name is Winge. Like Winge was just the shortest thing to be able to say on the court. Wings was another one people called me. I mean, it turned into like my Twitter bio is like all I do is win with like G in parentheses. So it's really fun. Everybody calls me Wingy, Wing, Winge, all the things. So it's been a nickname journey for sure.
Yeah, I love it. So I really, really am curious about you and your background, because obviously, you know, we see what you're doing now, and you've been in the game for a while, but you're very young in the game in a lot of ways. Like you're still obviously getting your feet wet in some ways, but you have so much experience already. You already are so talented, and the way that you communicate and how your preparation and how you handle yourself in interviews, like it's already great. But tell us, like, how did you get started? And again, please hype up your college career, because we need to know. Tell us, like, was this a dream that was born like in high school, or were you playing college basketball and saying like, hey, this is something I want to get involved in? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, so I knew at a very young age that basketball was my thing. Like, I think probably third grade was when I started playing organized rec basketball. And even then, like, I instantly fell in love with it, and I could feel myself being a little bit more talented than some of the other girls and just more passionate about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was competitive. I cared if we won or not. It wasn't like I was just running around out there trying to have a good time. Like, I wanted to be the best. And so into fifth grade, that's when the travel league started in Minnesota. And that's when things got more competitive. And I still am friends with some of my friends from my teams back then. Like, one of my very best friends from Minnesota was somebody that I played with from like fourth grade on. And it was such a cool experience. I learned so much about life. I learned so much about myself. I personally feel like it's where I I got most of my confidence
Mm.
as a person, was like learning hard work and how it pays off, and how you invest yourself and the payoff of that at times, and how I could build my own confidence in that way, and I could make myself great. Like I had full control over that. And so I basically just dove in head first. I didn't start playing AAU until 8th grade. And from that point on, it was like around 8th grade where I was like, okay, I really want to play in college. Like I started
Mm-hmm.
getting the attention of some bigger AAU programs in Minnesota, and eventually played with the best one. It's North Tartan. That's like the cream of the crop in Minnesota for girls basketball. And so I played for them throughout high school, as well as for my high school team. And I knew just I wanted to play in college. I wanted to play Division One. I wanted to get a scholarship. That was like my goal, my dream. That's what I was working for. And I had a really good shot at it. Like my freshman year, my sophomore year, I started getting interest from like some Big Ten schools, those like letters and those questionnaires, which I'm sure are all online now, but it was the coolest thing, getting in like snail mail form and seeing what university was reaching out. And I really wanted to go to University of Wisconsin-Madison. I had some interest from Iowa, and I was thinking the Big Ten would be like the most perfect fit for me. Well, fast forward to my last home game of my junior year in high school. I tore my ACL in like a freak accident. Like it wasn't like, I know a lot of girls when they're playing in high school and they tear it, it's like a pivot, or you just come down on it wrong, or even like Jamal Murray, where he literally just pushed off and it was just something strange that happened within his body. Mine was like the perfect storm. So I was playing defense, and the girl that I was guarding drove baseline, and as she drove, she stepped on my foot. And so I was trying to slide as she was driving, and I just couldn't, I didn't have anywhere to go. And I don't think I knew right away, but the moment that I like hit the ground, I was like, something bad happened. It was just the most eerie, strangest feeling. Like we were pretty good in high school, and like the whole gym was silent. Like it was a full crowd, and nobody said anything. I feel like you could hear a pin drop. It felt like everything was in slow motion. And I hoped it wasn't, but sort of knew it was.
Yeah.
And your biggest recruiting summer is junior year going into senior year. So I missed that entire summer doing rehab and trying to get myself right. And that was, and I talk about this a lot when I talk about Jamal coming back, just speaking from my own personal experience, it is so much more mental than it is physical coming back from an injury like that. At least that's my experience with it. You've trained your whole life, right? You've gone through physical strength and conditioning and training for basketball and getting your body in the right place. So that part wasn't as hard as the, am I ever going to play again? Am I ever going to be as good as I once was? How am I going to trust my knee again? I'm thinking about it all the time when I'm playing, that planting off, like learning those mechanisms again, and also just having the right thought process behind it was such a challenge for me.
Yeah.
And you combine that with, okay, so I had this interest from all these bigger schools. Now they're not interested in me anymore, and they don't want to take a risk on me. So that was when I tore mine. It was still a relatively complicated injury. It wasn't as advanced as it is now. And so there were so many doubts, and there were, so many highs, so many lows. I was angry. I was depressed. I was worried. I was anxious. But I was also hopeful. And I just kind of honed in on controlling what I can control. And I had, my family they mean the world to me. And my parents were the most supportive and the most understanding, and made me feel seen in those moments where I felt really forgotten. And so I obviously I can't thank them enough for giving me everything that they gave me, but being with me through that process and helping me kind of pick myself back up. My teammates were the same way. My coaches were the same way. And so when I was finally cleared to play again, my rehab took about 8 months, and I started playing again. And I had a coach that had recruited me and offered me a scholarship when she was at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And it was really early on. It was like I was a freshman, and I was like, I kind of want to wait and see what happens. So she ends up moving to Illinois State. And she really liked me as a person, which I loved. And she really liked my family, which I loved. Both those things were super important to me. I didn't want it to be just about basketball. I wanted it to be a good like culture fit. And so she sent her head coach to come watch me play at an open gym. She was like, look, there's this girl I really want you to see. She's coming off an ACL injury. I think that, you know, she could really help our program. She's a great leader. She comes from a great family. And she works really hard. She's got like all of the intangibles. She's got them. And so she came to my open gym and invited me out for an official visit. And I ended up accepting when I was on the official visit and was like, look, you guys are willing to take a risk on me when no one else is. And it's more than just my basketball. You like me as a person too. And you feel like what I bring as a human is something that could help this program. And so I ended up getting a full scholarship to Illinois State and played Division I basketball. The dream accomplished. It was highs and lows. I'm sure as any college athlete would tell you, like there were really great times and there were really hard times. And there were times when I wanted to quit. And there were times when I was really grateful that I had some of the coolest opportunities because of it. So I stayed my whole 4 years. I played my whole 4 years. I was like, I always joke, everybody's like, what position did you play? And I was like, honestly, I played all of them at different points in time. But I was really like a shooting guard. I loved shooting threes. My senior year was my best year. And once I got done, I was burnt out. I think now being away from it, I wish I would have gone and tried to play in Europe just because I love to travel too. And but I had a coaching change halfway through and it just was not a great fit. And so it just kind of sucked my love of playing the game out of me. But I knew how much basketball had done for me in my life. And I knew how much it was ingrained in my heart and my soul and who I am. And so I wanted to do something with it. I didn't know if I wanted to coach. I didn't know if I wanted to be in sports marketing. I didn't know if I wanted to be in broadcasting. And so like halfway through my collegiate experience, I was like, I think I could do the broadcasting. I think I could be a part of this. And that's sort of where I got my feet wet in reporting and anchoring and covering the game as opposed to playing it. And once I got out, I just was, this is like a story for another time, but I really wanted to study abroad. And since my season I went to a school that had semesters, my season was within both semesters. So I saved a couple gen eds. And after I got done playing, I like walked in May, but didn't officially graduate until December because I really wanted to go and be in Europe. So I went and did that. And then once I got back, I had my first local TV job. I actually had my interview for that when I was living in Florence, Italy. So it was like over Skype. It was at like 2:00 in the morning. And it was a super small local TV station in Rochester, Minnesota so about an hour from where I'm from. And really thankful that they gave me a shot too. I think they really liked that I was a former player. They knew that I knew sports and I knew the game. And so they hired me for that. I ended up getting into grad school at Northwestern in their sports master's program and sports journalism master's program. And so that was something I couldn't pass up. I knew eventually down the road that I wanted to teach. And so I was like, let me just take a break real quick, get my master's, and then I'll try and find a job out of that. And local TV wasn't really for me. I learned that pretty early on. And so I was like, I really want to work on the team side. So I worked for a year at Northwestern, got my master's in sports journalism, and the Denver Nuggets had a job for an in-arena reporter. And I had never seen anything like that in the NBA. Given that I played, I was like, I really want to be in the NBA. If I can make that happen, I really want to make that happen. And so I spent like my last quarter legitimately scouring NBA websites, like team websites, the NBA as a whole website. Every single day I blocked off time and just went and looked to see if anything was posted. Nuggets, in-arena reporter, had never seen anything like it. Interviewed, they liked me, they gave me a shot. And so I packed up my life in a tiny little car and moved to Denver, Colorado, and absolutely love it and loved it from the beginning. Like I loved that in-arena reporter job. For those of me who have followed me since I've been here, it was called Courtside Countdown, and it aired in arena during warmups and then during halftime. And that was my baby. Like I was the producer, I was the reporter, I was the host. I got to do everything for it, and do all the interviews and put together all the stories and go through the rundowns and pick what I wanted to talk about and pick who I wanted to interview. And I fell in love with this team and the city and this fan base. And Altitude saw me doing that show, and they were like, hey, I think that you have something that you could bring to our network. And so after my first season with game presentation, Altitude came in and swooped me up, and I switched over to be on the network side. So haven't looked back since. Altitude has been so great, and I kind of started as a digital reporter, sideline reporter, and from there I now do hosting, sideline reporting, and some games as an analyst, and I jump on the radio as an analyst when I can. So and I love that. I love being the utility player. I love doing a bunch of different jobs and covering this team in the widest lens I possibly can. So it's such a blast. What you guys see is truly how I feel, like, about this team, about, like, I get so excited about the game, about the league. And I pride myself on being a very authentic person. So literally when I'm interacting with everybody on social media, when I'm on TV, that person is truly who I am. And I'm so thankful to be here, and so happy to be covering such a great team of great players, but also great people. That was super long-winded, but there's the full Katy Winge story.
Yeah, no, we love it, first off, and I have so many questions. Number one, you went to Illinois State, and if people don't know, Illinois State been producing some athletes for a while now. Illinois State had Tony Romo. Illinois State also had Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe, and then they also, I think James Robinson went to Illinois State. He's the running back that plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The one that I always think of is Doug Collins, because I'm a basketball girl. So as I played on Doug Collins' court, it's that one to me is like, yeah, that's who I think of when I think of Illinois State. And they had really, like, their women's program had great success. Jill Hutchinson, she was a legendary coach there, and I loved being a part of that history and being a female athlete there. So it's really cool. It's a really great school. I loved it.
So number one, I think it's amazing and what people don't realize about when you're recovering from injuries like that, especially when it comes to, I would say, basketball more than any other sports, it takes a lot to make a decision, especially in high school, to not only go through the recovery process, because you already know a lot of people just say, I'm not going to rehab like I'm supposed to, I'm just going to be done with it. But then the transition from that to being able to play basketball at a high level again, and then you do it for 4 years, not only does that take an obscene amount of physical work, but the mental grind to be able to make that decision and say that I'm going to stick to it, and then trust your body again. So the fact that you did that, it's actually a major accomplishment, because I have literally seen people tear their ACL or their MCL, their PCL, or even break their fibula and say, I'm done. So that's a huge accomplishment that you were able to do that and then be successful. And then in the process, so this is one of the reasons why you're so successful, is that you breathe an energy of a go-getter. And so you can tell that when you're on television. But for the fact for you to go through your college career, be overseas and say, like, yo, like, there's something I really want to do, to have this interview with the small local company, and then for you to get in, like, I think that also speaks to not just the drive that you have, but the drive that you need to have when you're coming from a place of nothing. And I mean a place of nothing in that, like, you didn't have like a major into the industry. Not like you called ESPN and you knew the CEO. You know, you had a commitment to a vision and a commitment to a plan, and you saw it through, and now you're here. So I think that's a really, really rare trait you find, but it makes sense given the position you're in.
I love the way that you phrased that. Thank you. First of all, that's a lot of compliments wrapped up in there. And there's so many people that ask me, you know, what advice do you have getting started in this, like, industry? And look, it's hard. It is hard to break into. It is hard. Yes, it's about who you know, but I knew when I was living in Italy, like, if I wanted, and I was being even pickier. Like, I was like, I really want to go home and be closer to my family after being away from them for 4 years. So I was looking in Minnesota for some sort of sports job in a local TV station near Minneapolis. And your window is like this big. It truly is. Like, it is, like, if there's an opportunity for you and you think that it's possible to make happen, like, you have to be all in on it. Otherwise you won't get it, because there are too many people who want jobs like this, and not that many opportunities, not that many available jobs. So that's one of the things that I always say, like, know what you want, like truly know what you want. Do you want to be in a specific sport? Are you not really sure? Do you need some time to figure it out? If that's the case, then local TV might be a great route for you to cover a bunch of different sports and meet a bunch of different people and tell all of those stories. But do you want to be in a specific place or a region? Is there a city that you want to eventually get to? Are there smaller cities around that big city that are smaller markets that you can work your way into? But again, like the timing on that needs to be so perfect that you have to be on your A game and be ready to go when those doors open, because otherwise it's not to say that they won't open again, because they probably will. There's pretty quick turnaround in some of those like entry level jobs, but you got to be a go-getter and you got to stand out in some way, shape, or form. And they have to be able to feel that when you're applying for those opportunities.
So for you, as you have broached you're still in the beginning stages of your career. Again, once again, it's crazy. It sounds crazy, but you are, even as as much as you're doing right now. Who have been maybe some of your heroes in the game, or idols, or people that have been kind of motivating factors, even from afar? Like, who are you watching that you kind of maybe took some style from, but that motivated you to want to do it?
Yeah. There are so many. The list goes on and on and on. So being a Minnesota girl, and I had an internship with Fox Sports North before I ended up going to Italy over that summer. And so Vanessa Lambert was a producer there, and we don't talk enough about women who are taking great strides behind the camera as well, because it truly is a male dominated industry, across the board. And so Vanessa was just someone that I leaned on and learned from. And she was such a great sounding board for me to kind of try and find my way and find my voice. And she had been around some really successful people. And so she introduced me to those people and helped me kind of find my way. Marnie Gellner in Minnesota. So she does kind of what I do for the Nuggets, for the Timberwolves, and for the Twins. She works for, it's now Bally Sports North, but it was Fox Sports North way back when. And so Marnie has been doing this forever and ever and ever. And she's someone that I grew up watching and just loved, especially her authenticity. I have such an admiration for people who do this job 100% as themselves, because it's very, very easy to get caught up in what are the fans saying? What are people saying about me? Who do they want me to be? And for me, it's always I have wanted to be more than just a girl that's on camera talking about basketball. I wanted to be able to show my knowledge. I've wanted to be fun and goofy and carefree and not take myself too seriously, because that's truly who I am in real life. And you just it's exhausting faking who you are, especially when you're on camera. That's that. I knew that wasn't sustainable. And so I told myself that if that ever happens, I will get out of the industry if I feel like I'm being someone that I'm not, because that's not a life I want to live. But as far as mentors and heroes, obviously Doris, she's the GOAT. I watch her as much as I possibly can. She's phenomenal in so many ways and has just paved the way for people like me to have opportunities like I do. Cassidy Hubarth was my mentor when I was at Northwestern.
Cassidy was? Wow, okay.
I freaking adore her, and I love hoop streams, and she's another one that just is she is herself, and she is going to bring her personality to everything that she does, and she's so insanely talented, and I love her dearly, and she's helped me so much. She took me under her wing and introduced me to some really cool people, and helped me learn who I wanted to be in this industry as well. Allie Clifton, she's a host for the Lakers now with Spectrum. She was with the Cavs when LeBron was there and they won. She probably has been the most influential person on my career and on me, just because I've known her the longest, and she is always a phone call away. And again, endless advice. I watch her all the time. She's so good at what she does. And I can't say enough good things about her. And the last one that I want to bring up is Sarah Kustock. She's another one that always a phone call away. I admire what she does so much. She just carries herself with so much class and is so intelligent. And the way that she breaks down the game is just next level. Like there's a reason that she's the analyst for the Brooklyn Nets. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason that she got there. She's also one of the kindest people that I've ever met in my entire life. And I just, yeah, there are so many, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting people, but there are so many incredible women in this industry that have made it possible for people like me, and even for my mentors, to even have a chance to work in the NBA and to have an opportunity for our voices to be heard. And I'm so grateful for those women and those people. And I also, like, I'm so grateful too for like Kenny Miller. He actually just got a job with Amazon Sports, but he was the general manager of Altitude, and he has been an advocate for women in sports. He has hired some insanely talented women in sports. And he has been instrumental in developing me throughout my time at Altitude and helping me get better and investing in me as a broadcaster. And so like the women in this industry couldn't do it without the male counterparts that are there supporting them and giving them these opportunities and seeing value and worth in what we bring. So all the guys out there that are cheerleaders for the women, I am so grateful and thankful, and see us as just, you know, people who cover the league, not as anything different than anybody else. It's tremendous.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're bringing up some really important points, and especially with where we are socially, and then we're also trying to make some amends for some transgressions of the past, but more so, there are very talented people that are just not like the establishment that has been there previously. So as a person who happens to be born a woman and to be a woman, you have obviously all these skill sets and all these talents, but what does it mean for you to be a woman, to be able to walk into that industry and to try to make your own place in it by not compromising yourself, and to be true to who you are? And why is that so important, you think, for even the legacy that you're going to be leaving for other women who are looking at you as somebody that's saying, like, I want to be like Katy one day?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm going to be honest. It's hard. Like it has been challenging, and I can't even imagine how difficult it was for the people who were first breaking barriers, that were first breaking down those walls, and were first, you know, establishing a space for us to sit in. And so I think what people maybe don't realize is like what goes on in a woman's brain who's in this position. We're constantly thinking about, you know, what are we saying? How are we saying it? What do we look like? How are we dressing? How are we interacting with players? How are we interacting with coaches? Like, how are we carrying ourselves? Like, am I saying enough about basketball? What does my face look like? What, like all of these, there are so many components and areas of criticism that people love to kind of poke at, and you automatically sort of have to prove yourself in a different way compared to a man that covers this league. And it's a challenge that I think so many of us have like walked into and accepted, and you just kind of deal with it. Like it just is what it is. And you handle it in a way that's like, wow, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. But I also am so looking forward to the day where we don't have to talk about being grateful for that, like for a woman getting that opportunity. Like I'm so looking forward to the day where it's not in the headlines, where it's not even a topic of conversation. It's just the norm. It's just we support it, and we don't even think twice about it. And it's one of those things where they just know that there's a place for them there if they have, you know, the right skill set and the right fit. Of course, it's like all about proving that you deserve it. But at the same time, I find, going off of kind of what you were saying about how it has traditionally been a certain way, and it has traditionally been certain people and certain voices, there's so much value in diversity and bringing people together from different backgrounds, from different places, from different cultures. It is so much more colorful. It is so much more fun. It is so much more relatable. Your audience is so much bigger. There's just, I can't imagine it not being that way. And we have so much work still to do from a diversity standpoint, and making sure that all voices are heard and all people are seen. But I think we're trending in the right direction, and that makes me optimistic. It makes me hopeful. And it's not just women, it's different races. It's, you know, different people of different economic backgrounds. It's all of these things combined into one. And the fact that we're finally, one, acknowledging it, and two, giving these people a platform and a push and an opportunity to show what they bring to the table. I'm so grateful that I had that chance, and I know that there are so many talented people out there that deserve that chance too. So is it challenging? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. And the reason that I want this to be such a huge part of my legacy is so that, one, people don't, like, little girls out there watching, they won't have to go through something like this. Like, when people watch them, they won't have to hear, oh, you look a certain way, or you don't know anything about the game, or you're just on there because you look good, or whatever it might be. Like, name it, literally name it. And so I hope that what I'm doing matters to people out there that see somebody like them or somebody different doing something that they might like to do, or covering a team that they love that brings them joy. And I also hope it makes it easier for those types of people to get opportunities in the future.
Yeah. I even think about, people like yourself, but even obviously Cassidy, but Malika Andrews, who took over the show and has a whole leading show
crushing
on
ESPN. It. Yes.
26 years old, I think, doing that, and then her sister is with the Golden State Warriors right now.
She was in Denver. Yeah. She was writing for the Nuggets for The Athletic. Kendra, she does this phenomenal job, and now she's covering the Warriors in Oakland, where she's from. So it's, sorry to interrupt you. I love, like, yes, they're all doing it. They're all doing great. I love the channeling the power there.
Yeah, and I even grew up, obviously, in many ways, listening to Doris Burke, and I think about all the because of my athletic background, all the WNBA players I've gotten a chance to meet across the way, the Bria Hartleys of the world, and seeing all these UConn players and Maya Moore and all that. So I think it's important that as we're trying to understand these things, it's just realizing that there is a place for everyone. I think maybe part of the reason why we've had so many issues is just that it was always seen as like, I have to grab on to as much as possible for myself. There's only so much room. But like you said, no, there's actually the more diverse we are, the more we allow each other to have a seat at the table, the better we all are. And I even think about, again, we'll transition to basketball now, but it's just even like thinking about how the NBA is. Like, Katy, you realize right now, 10 of the maybe 4 to 6 of the best players in the NBA. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, you got Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic. They're all international players. And you just think about how much better they've made the NBA because they're bringing so many different types of skill sets to the game.
So, absolutely. And different personalities.
Yeah.
Like, that makes this league is so fun to cover because of the talent, but also because of the people that these players are. And the names that you mentioned, I mean, talk about personality. They are so fun to watch play, but also just to, like, hear their stories. And to know that, like, in a lot of ways, they're normal people, like normal people. They're just like me and you, and they make us laugh and make us cry and make us yell, but also make us, like, scream in the best way. Like, it's such a fun time to be an NBA fan. And like you said, I think the league being as diverse as it is makes it that much more fun too.
Yeah. So now I know everybody's been waiting on this. I think they obviously love hearing about all the background stuff, but they want to know, Katy, what's going on with the Nuggets? Why are the Nuggets in the situation that they're in? So we have been watching those of us that have been able to watch the Denver Nuggets the last 3 seasons. We have watched this rise of this player in Nikola Jokic, who has gone from being on the outskirts of a top 10 player to getting solidified as an all NBA first team player, and then getting somehow beat to be second team when Anthony Davis, all the other stuff happened. And now he's won his MVP, and he seems to be having a potentially top 5-ish season of all time per the advanced metrics of box plus minus and PER. Why do you think that, number one, why do you think he is having this kind of effect on the team? Like, what is it about his game? But then the other side of it, why do you think it maybe took so long or maybe why it's still taking so long for the rest of the NBA as a whole to kind of catch up to the all-time great player that we're witnessing right now?
I'll start with the second one first, because this is a topic that gets me riled up a little bit too. He's not what you're used to seeing.
Yeah.
He's not a typical fit in the box superstar. He's just not. He's not going to wow you with his athleticism. He's not going to, put together traditional highlight type reels. But what he does, no one else is doing. And who he is, no one else can be. And we haven't seen anyone be. And so I think there's in my mind, it doesn't, yes, there's one MVP and yes, there's a handful of great players in the league, but why can't they all exist as who they are and be great in their own way? Because that's kind of how I feel about it. The MVP to me will always be like, take that player off of that team and how does that team look? And so that's always been kind of my argument of like, hey, if you take Jokic off the Nuggets, this is a completely different team and franchise, like just overall. Remove him from this equation and it is not pretty, folks. I don't think anybody needs me to tell them that. And that's like similar to like Russell Westbrook when he's having his triple-double season, and like James Harden with the Rockets. Like their teams weren't phenomenal, but take them off of those teams and those teams would have been, not good to say the least. And so that to me is the first kind of indicator of like, okay, who should be in this MVP conversation? Yes, Kevin Durant is phenomenal. I mean, Giannis, phenomenal, but who they're playing alongside right now is so astronomically better than who Jokic is playing alongside. And that's no disrespect to the Nuggets. That's, I think, just reality. And I think that kind of carries into your first part of that question is, why do you think he's doing what he's doing? Because he has to. Like, he has to carry the team right now. He has to be the guy that is consistent and produces on a nightly basis. He has to be the guy that is the number one option and is creating for his other teammates and also has stepped up his defense. And because otherwise the Nuggets wouldn't be anywhere near 500. Like right now, it really is, in my opinion, a keep your head above water situation. Like find a way to stay afloat, because the adversity that this team has faced so far, every team is going through it. I get that. But add in the injuries on top of all of the COVID protocols and things that just the league has had to deal with. The Nuggets, I feel like, have caught one of the biggest hits in that regard. And what we forget when we're watching these games and we're being as present as we're being is the Nuggets are without two of their three best players. And of course, it's easy to forget about that, right? Like you're watching and you're thinking, man, this is really frustrating to watch. Why are they so sloppy? Why can we not score? Why does their offense look out of rhythm? Why can no one defend? Why is it like the help side late? What? All these questions are going through our minds, right? But think about what this would look like with a healthy roster. Think about how different that would be. Think about the way that Jokic would be defended, knowing that you have Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray roaming on the 3-point line, waiting for, a kick out from a double team. Like that is something that it's easy, out of sight, out of mind. But Nuggets fans, don't let that get your heart too much here, because I truly believe that the championship window is open. I really think that, especially given the way that everything is going in the NBA right now. I think everybody's talking about the Lakers. I think the Lakers are getting old. So they're like kind of weaning their way out a little bit.
They started old.
I know,
they're getting
exactly.
older.
That's what I mean. Like they're getting older. Exactly. I don't know what's going to happen with the Nets and Kyrie coming back and how that's going to work. And is Kevin Durant like, is that like kind of what we're comparing to at this point? Is that who we're expecting to win the championship? Golden State being healthy again. I think that obviously is a huge deal. And anytime they're healthy, they're contenders. But a healthy Denver Nuggets team absolutely is in the championship conversation. Like, I don't know how they can't be. And so it's easy right now to feel not so great, but just know, like, just wait, just hold off, give it another season and see what happens. And then you can be as frustrated as you want. But I just think, man, oh man, a healthy Nuggets team, it's going to be really, really tough to compete with.
Yeah. So for you, when Jamal Murray went down last season, and then obviously We had Michael Porter Jr. He might have hurt his back. We think during the preseason in the Warriors game, and for some reason playing at Oracle. I don't know why. I feel like the Nuggets should just just for here on out stop playing there.
Yeah.
When that happened last year, what went through your mind when you saw it? Because the Nuggets were 8-2 up to that point, including that game with this brand new starting five that they had that seemed like it was unbeatable. They had lost that game to the Boston Celtics out of nowhere. And again, they were up like 20 points at one point in that game and they lost. But I mean, it looked like we were witnessing the birth of a brand new era in Denver Nuggets history. So when that happened, what went through your mind?
When I was watching that basketball, or when I watched Jamal Murray tear his ACL?
Well, let's do the sandwich. Let's do the good.
Yeah, we'll
and
do
then
both.
The bad
We'll do
and then
both.
The good.
Yeah. So I was with, and Coach Malone has been on record saying this a couple times, but I was with them in thinking, like, after that Clipper game when they won in LA, I was like, whew. Is this real? is this what we're about to embark upon? This is it right here. Man, is that going to be fun? Like that's what I was thinking was, whoa, this has the opportunity to be something really special for a while. Like, young guys figuring it out. All of a sudden it was like, this is what they could be.
Yeah.
And I still hold on to that. I really do. I still think about that in those games, and that game in particular, and Coach Malone saying that, and knowing collectively in the locker room that was a light bulb moment, an epiphany moment. When Jamal went down, especially me having gone through that, I mean, it was instantly like, please no. But Jamal Murray is one of the toughest human beings I have ever been around or ever seen in my life. And I know, like, people are saying he's going to come back better. Like, he's going to come back better. He really is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of, I think a lot of Nuggets fans are getting excited seeing, like, him posting on his Instagram and seeing him jumping and windmilling and doing all this crazy stuff. There's zero reason in my mind to rush him back. Like, why? For what? I think maybe, like, if there's a chance to make a run in the playoffs, even then, like, I don't really want to put him in that position. Like, I don't want to put him in a position where he's not going to be successful, just from a mental standpoint. And he, again, one of the most mentally tough people that I've ever been around. I think when he's ready to come back, like, watch out. I truly think he's going to be the same player, if not better than what he was when he went down. And watching him rehab and seeing the way that he's still interacting with the team and still kind of, like, coaching on the sidelines and doing what he can. He's invested in Denver, and he's invested in this opportunity and in this window that I'm talking about, this time of, like, wow, we've got a really good group of players and a really great culture established. Like, let's make the most of this and let's not waste this. And so I think, and that's kind of the same with MPJ too. Like, I want them to be healthy. Like, there's no reason to rush them back or to put them in a compromising position when what we're going for, big picture, is a championship. And in order for that to happen, they need to be healthy. So let's not give up our long-term vision for short-term, instant gratification.
Yeah. So for you, with that in mind, what do you think is a realistic outcome for the rest of the season, given that the Nuggets are really, they're constantly flirting with being a 500 team. They get 2 games ahead, and then now they're 1 game ahead, and they got Utah tomorrow, and then they could all of a sudden be right back down to 500. And then it's just been that push and pull all season. So what do you think is a realistic expectation for this team based on, hopefully they're going to continue to get healthy? We'll see what happened to Blacko Chanchar, Monte Morris, and Zeke Naji been in protocol. Bones just got out of protocol. He's rolled his ankle a couple of times. Will Barton started the season off great, had a couple injuries. Now he's kind of back and forth. Aaron Gordon just got back from a hamstring injury. So when you're looking for the rest of the season, what do you think is realistic for this team?
It all depends on health, and I know that's a cop-out answer. It truly does, though. Like, can they get back to being healthy by the end of the season? That's what I'm going to go with. Like, I don't want to put a timeline on it. Like, I think if they can make the playoffs, make the playoffs. I don't at this point, like, the West is such a crapshoot right now anyways. Like, and Dallas is 500, like, and the Nuggets just lost to them. Like, I think that, like, it's going to jump around a lot other than the couple that are at the top. And even if it's a play-in game, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind it. If that's what it is, that's what it is. I want to see them make the playoffs. I want to see them healthy more than anything else. And so whatever that looks like, I'm okay with that. I don't mind being around the 500 mark. Like, I think that now we're getting into a stretch. They had a really tough December, like really tough. They were on the road a ton. And now we're getting into a longer home stretch. So can they take advantage and win those games at home and maybe get a little cushion with their record? But I think just stay in the race, stay in the race for the West, and find a way to make the playoffs, and then go from there. See what happens. See how your guys are feeling. See how then you start to think about Jamal, Michael Porter Jr. What does that look like? Truly, I'm not just like saying this. Truly, neither have a timeline. Like, they are not going to come back until they are ready, and that's, I think, such a luxury for the Nuggets to have. Like, to not have to force the guy to come back because, like, we need you. No, like, get right in your head, get right with your body, and then let's make the push that we all know that we're capable of. So I want to see them, like, play the right way. I want to see them, like, establish great habits. The thing about this season that's been so tough is there's been no rhythm. Like, there's, like, I think about Bones and how talented Bones is. And as a rookie, like, having the opportunities that he's having, but he's been in and out of health and safety, in and out with given the ankle injury. Like, he hasn't had a chance to, like, find a role or find a rhythm or even really, like, be in pure basketball shape because he's had to take so much time off. So all of these players are dealing with stuff like that. And I think that that's something that, like, we really need to keep in mind of, like, the Nuggets bench is the second bench right now. Like, the bench is playing. And so what does a real true rotation look like when they're healthy, even when they're healthy without Jamal and MPJ, just when everybody else is healthy? Like, what does that look like? And can they establish some of those rotations on a more consistent basis? Can they make their product more consistent on the floor? I think just getting back to that place would set them up for the greatest success longer term.
How do you think, or how do you personally feel? And we got the analyst hat on as well, but just even you personally, how do you feel that Michael Malone has done, given, the bubble, 83 days or whatever it was inside the bubble, and then you get a month off, and then you're rekindling the season, and then you make it through last season. They started off 11-12, then eventually they move up into standings a little bit, and then eventually they're getting there. Then Aaron Gordon comes, and then Jamal Murray gets hurt, and they make it through the playoffs, and Monte wasn't available. Will Barton's not available. Then it's Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers versus Chris Paul and Devin Booker. That goes down the rails, and then starts this year. COVID protocol, more player injury, in and out of the lineup. How do you feel that Michael Malone has handled this team over the last season and a half and really up to this season?
I know there are some people who are very critical of Coach Malone, but I am the biggest Coach Malone advocate, fan, supporter. I truly think the world of him. I really do. And people will say, like, well, what about the third quarters? And they don't change anything at halftime. And, like, what I have to say about that is the Nuggets are typically up at half, and the other team is the team that has to make the adjustments. And then you have to counter again. Like, that's the give and the take of an NBA game. That's the give and the take of any basketball game. Like, the team that's winning is finding success. How do you counter that success? Okay, now that's countered. How do you counter that? It's a game of runs. Like, there's a reason that's a saying in the NBA and in basketball in general. I think he has done the absolute best that he could do given the circumstances and given the cards that he has been dealt. Obviously, it helps when you have Nikola Jokic and you have an MVP on your team and a player that you literally can just say play basketball and he makes things happen and makes everybody around him better. But I think more than X's and O's, what Coach Malone has done from a culture standpoint, and even above Coach Malone, like Josh and Tim, the players that they have invested in, and Calvin Booth, like the players that these front office people have sought out and found and have like researched, and not only just as basketball players, but is this player going to fit into Nuggets culture? Like, is this player going to be selfless? Is this player, do they have a good attitude? Do they work hard? Like, there are very specific traits that they go after and have been going after. And then Coach Malone takes those players and his staff does a tremendous job of developing them. And that's where you see this resiliency and like this underdog mentality come through, because that's been something that they all feel like they have a chip on their shoulders, both individually and as a team. Like, that has been something that has become a part of this Denver Nuggets identity. And I think that the fans kind of embrace it too, of like, that's fine, count us out, see what happens. That's part of Mile High basketball now. And so I think that more than just what he's been able to do in terms of producing wins, given everything that's been going on, but being able to establish a sustainable and consistent culture and in a family where people want to be there and they want to be around it, and everybody that comes into it is so complimentary of it and says that, you know, this is really special. That to me speaks even louder than what he's been able to do on the court, because that to me, you get the right pieces, and that's what, you know, takes the good to the great.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely phenomenal insight. You know, before we even have a chance to get out of here, I'm even curious for you, and as we transition to even your career, if you could even build like what is it for you that might not be necessarily an end goal, like that's the last thing, but when you see yourself and you see the role that you're going to have in this industry or however it looks, what would you like to see yourself doing down the road, you know, when you get to, you know, be in that place, you know, years from now?
Yeah. I've gotten this question a lot since being at altitude. And one of the things that I've really tried to work on as a human is being more present. For so long, you mentioned me being a go-getter at the beginning of this conversation. And for so long, I've been chasing, like, what's the next thing? What's the next job? What's the next dream? When I decided I wanted to do this job was my dream job. And so being here, I'm kind of allowing myself to enjoy it and be grateful for it and really try and be great at it. Like, put myself all in to all the roles that I do and grow and develop every single year. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I really would love to do more analyst work, whether that's college basketball. I've had a couple opportunities to do some CU games on FS1, which I've loved. And I love the atmosphere of college basketball. So, like, big picture, big dreams, I would love to cover the Olympics. I would love to cover March Madness. I don't really care what my role is for either of those things, but I would love to be able to be a part of those two major events. In terms of like what job I want long term, I would love to have my own show. Like, I would love to have an NBA show like Malika has, like an NBA Today, or like The Jump was something like that that's NBA focused, but also mix in some analyst work with that and still be calling some games and being a part of it. Like I said, I love being a utility player. Like, I love being able to do a bunch of different jobs. So I never want to pigeonhole myself and say, I just want to do this one thing. But I love hosting. I love being an analyst. I mean, I love being a reporter and being able to tell those stories. So kind of wherever that takes me next, I'm open to, and wherever kind of the universe guides me, I'll wait and see what happens. But I love where I'm at so much right now. And I want to just continue to develop and hone in on some of these roles that I don't really know what's going to come next. For the first time, I don't have something that I'm like, I need to get here. I'm here. So I want to keep telling these stories and being a part of this incredible team on this incredible run. And also being a part of Nuggets Nation and interacting with the great people of Denver and Colorado, because I truly love it so much. It's become my home.
Yeah. Well, I think a little teaser of what have you found a favorite restaurant or a favorite spot you like to eat in Denver? If you could recommend a place for people to jump into, what would it be?
Whenever I get asked this question, I always like panic and I don't know. I don't remember.
You don't have to.
I know, I'm like, so for Mexican food, I love La Loma downtown. It used to be in the Highlands and now it's like right across the street from the Brown Palace. I love that. I also really love my favorite like takeout place. If I'm gonna get like something out, the spicy chicken ramen from Uncle is like next level, so good. You can't replicate it or get it anywhere else. So Uncle's ramen to die for. I go to the Hornet a lot on South Broadway, Moxie on South Broadway I really like. I bounce around. I really like Gallows Italian Kitchen on South Broadway. Yeah, if anybody has any recommendations, please hit me up because I'm all about the food game. I love trying all the food spots, all the local places, please.
Yeah.
I love that. So there's just a quick like handful of them.
Bet. And by the way, so if people are looking for all your work, can you plug all the places that you're putting content out, please?
Yes. So at Katy Winge on Twitter, at Katy Winge on Instagram. I think I'm at Katy Winge on TikTok. I'm trying to up my TikTok game a little bit. That was one of my New Year's resolutions. What I want to do is be able to provide like more of a behind the scenes inside look on that platform. So I'm going to start kind of developing and messing around with some of that. But then on Altitude TV, all of those social media platforms, and fingers crossed, you guys, on the actual TV soon. I'm hopeful. I really am. There's been some movement, and trust me when I say I want you guys to be able to watch the games just as much as you want to be able to watch the games. So I'm hopeful within the next couple months that please good news will be on the horizon.
Yeah, I think we all would like that. So, Katy, this has been absolutely amazing. You are tremendous. This has been a tremendous conversation. And I already know that everybody who's listening to this is going to be blessed because of it and because they're hearing your story, hearing how you've been able to persevere yourself, but even just hearing how you've been able to kind of set your own pathway as they're trying to figure out theirs, but even just further insight on the Nuggets and what's going on with the team. So you by far, you have a lifelong dedicated community with the Nuggets community. And I know that there are folks who are stuck in the Nugget life, and you give them hope in order to get out of that. So you are
what
tremendous.
I'm here for.
Yeah, seriously though. So like again, thank you for the time, thank you for the day, and y'all please go follow Katy on Twitter, go follow her on Instagram, you all, and Swipa Gang. We will see y'all soon.